At GxpManager, we know testing an equipment or software in a highly regulated environment can be a hassle. You can benefit from our numerous years of experience in that line of work. Introducing SVV, our Specifications Verification and Validation Catalog application. SVV is designed to handle multiple projects. One equipment or software equals one project. I'm selecting the English demo project for that presentation. Your project list is located in the properties where the project code field defines the displayed name of your project. The buttons on the upper toolbar are to create, delete, and duplicate a project. You may set the project language here. You can also apply application logos and more using these parameters. Let me close the Properties window. SVV application allows you to manage Specification Catalog under the Specification menu. A catalog of risks under the Risk Analysis menu. A test sheets catalog under the Verification menu. Under the Documentation menu, you can build electronic execution test sheets protocols or specification documents. This application also allows you to run non-electronic, manual testing. This is really up to you to choose one method against the other. Under the Specification menu, you will find your different types of specifications such as URS, FRS, and technical specs. We deliberately split each specification type in half in a way that you will get a high-level functional group and the detailed specs. You may decide to only deal with your specifications under the detailed specs sections. Let's browse to the detailed user specification requirements. That table displays all detailed URS for a given product. The buttons on the toolbar are meant to manage your records. You can create, edit, or delete your user requirements here. The ability to use these buttons is tied up to the user rights defined by our customers. You can export the data to Excel using the XLS button too. To edit or view a record, select it and either click the Edit button or press your Enter key on your keyboard. That allows you to consult or edit a specification. Here, you will find all necessary fields and related information materializing as specifications, such as a description, GMP tagging, the type, the acceptance criteria, and because the specs are under an approval workflow, you will find all approbation statuses there as well. As explained previously, you can link detailed specs to a high-level spec. Hence, you can regroup detailed specs into functional spec groups to facilitate your system or product specifications visibility. For that, simply click on the link logo within the form, select the correct table, in that case, the URS. The URS list appears, and you can easily link the high level to detailed specs. The same logic applies to the FRS and technical specifications. To create a specification, click on the Create button. The form opens, and you just need to type in the required data. The code, also called as the unique ID, can either be created automatically or manually. If you leave it empty, the system will create it following the naming convention you decided. Fill up all fields as needed, and you may link a high-level spec as previously explained. Finally, hit Save to create your brand new URS. To edit the newly created record, select it and hit the Edit button on the toolbar, or press the Enter key on your keyboard. The form opens, and you may edit its content, as long as the workflow hasn't started. Based on the user rights you want to allow to given groups or users, someone may delete a record. To delete the newly created URS, select the record and hit the Delete button on the toolbar. Confirm you really want to get rid of it. The record then disappears from the list. Of course, every single change is traced in the audit trail. Our solution is fully compliant with all regulations out there. This is how you create a specification catalog on our GxpSVV application. What you just saw on the URS is also valid on the FRS, also called as Functional Specification Requirements, and the Technical Specifications. Each section has its own set of fields and dataset. As always with GxpManager, everything is customizable upon request. Your spec catalogs are now ready. The next step in the process is risk management. Browse to the Risk Analysis section and click on FMEA. Here you see all listed risks related to the project, the software or the equipment that you need to verify and validate. Like the specifications, the same logic applies to manage your risks. Based on user rights you want to set up, someone can open a risk form using the Edit button. Here is the risk form and all associated fields. Potential failure mode contains your risk description. Based on what you choose for the severity and frequency, the system computes the risk criticality. Index is calculated with causes, effects, and detection means. Once you complete an action to mitigate a risk, a new index will be calculated, but the application will keep showing the initial index value. This index value comes from the AMDEC, or FMEA tab, and the data you typed in there. If causes, effects, or detection means are already logged into the system, you can link them by clicking the Link button. If they are not in the system, create them by clicking on the Create button. Fill up the required data. After validating, the item will be added in the catalog and will be linked to the risk you are currently working on. The causes, effect, and detection means values are calculating the initial index value. On the Action tab, you will build your mitigation actions catalog. The same logic applies. Either your actions are already created and you can simply link them, or you need to create them. An action is defined by 4 fields: a text description, plus a detection, an occurrence, and a severity index. All 3 values will be used to calculate the remaining index for your risk mitigation. You can browse and manage all the risk catalog items straight from the risk analysis family, as you see here. Now that you are done with your specification and risks catalogs, it is time to tackle the test catalogs. Browse to the verification family. There, you will be able to manage IQ, OQ, and PQ test sheets catalogs. Each qualification section will contain a set of test sheets with their prerequisites and objectives. Instructions are visible by clicking the plus button located on the left side of each test sheet. As usual, you can edit a record based on your defined user rights. Here you may change a test sheet objectives and prerequisites. Same thing for the test instructions. Select and edit to change the content. Here you can manage the pre-execution of a given test sheet. The post-execution is locked because the electronic execution wasn't started yet. On the other end, the pre-execution will be locked as well once the execution is started. Create a test sheet using the Add button on the toolbar. Give it a title, objective, and prerequisite. Save. The new test sheet is created. Same approach to create a test instruction within your new test sheet. Click the Add button on the toolbar. Most of the time, you get several instructions in a test sheet, so set the instruction number on top. Let's put 1 here. Then, type in your instruction and expected result. Since we are in pre-execution phase, the result is locked. Hit Save and your instruction is created. Depending on the user rights you would get, you may delete a test sheet and all its instructions by selecting the record and clicking on the Delete button on the toolbar. Now that we know how to manage specification, risk analysis, and verification catalogs, we can relate the information between all these catalogs in a very simple manner. For instance, if I browse to a detailed functional specification, I can easily link a detailed technical spec to it, as I'll show you. Select the detailed functional specification you wish to link, and on the bottom part under the Link tab, select the Detailed Technical Specification Table. The list you see down here is the list of technical detailed specs already linked to this detailed functional specification. In order to link an additional detailed technical spec, click on the link chain logo. A pop-up opens listing all technical specs that are not yet linked to that record. Select the one you want to link and hit the link button on top. Close the window. Both specifications are now linked together and it is displayed on your screen. Similarly, you can unlink by clicking the button on top and then confirming the action. The detailed technical specification is now unlinked. Another cool feature is Create and Link. Using that button, you can dynamically create and link a specification at the same time. Depending on what you want to create and link, the associated form opens. Here, I chose the same detailed technical spec example. Fill up all required information and hit Save to create and link both specifications together. If needed, you may also edit a link and its content by selecting it and hit the Edit button. These links are applicable to all URS, FRS, and technical specifications, whether they are high-level or detailed ones. This is how you build the relations between your specs on the SVV application. As explained before, it makes sense to link high-level to detailed specifications. For that, the linking process remains the same on SVV. Of course, SVV allows you to link detailed specifications, whether user, functional, or technical, to risks. You can either go to the Risk Analysis section, select a given risk, and link it to a detailed specification. Or on the other end, you may select a detailed specification and link a given risk to it under the FMEA risk list on the bottom of the window, using the Link button as usual. The same logic is applicable for linking detailed specifications to test sheets. From the Detailed Functional Table, I can select a spec and link it, for example, to an operational qualification test sheet on the bottom part of the application, under the Link tab as usual. Similarly, you could link detailed URS to performance qualification test sheets using the same method. For that, browse to Detailed User Requirements, select the spec, and link the performance qualification test sheet to it. Finally, regarding the technical specification, you can link the installation qualification test sheets. Depending on what you are working on during your testing phase, and depending on your role within the organization, you may need to have different views. Of course, the relations are working back and forth. I can then browse to the verification section, display the opposite view from the test sheets to the specifications. For example, I can select an operational qualification test sheet and check which detailed functional specs it relates to, hence seeing at a glance all functional specifications attached to a given test sheet. Following that logic, SVV application allows you to create a transitional chain between all kinds of specifications, test sheets, and risks, and have this handy on a single interface for your convenience. Now that we built specifications, risks, and test catalogs and link these items to one another, it is time to manage the qualification protocols to later run electronic test executions. Browsing to the documentation family and specification table will allow you to create your different specification files at a certain moment in the life cycle of your project. In other words, this is where you pick and choose from the previously created catalogs which specs you want to test. As an example, here I created 3 groups of specifications: user, functional, and technical. Each one contains a set or all specifications from the related catalogs, depending on what you want to test on which step. This is meant to organize your testing. You create the reference of your document by opening the form and defining a traceability code. For instance, I'm typing GxpURS-01 and I hit save. At this point, the document reference is created. Under the Publication tab, you link the groups of URS you want to treat. Here, all URS are already linked for the presentation. Finally, you can publish the record containing all the chosen specs by clicking on the Doc button on the main toolbar. Select the PDF for Word format as you wish. I prefer PDF. Set the path and name of your file. The PDF containing your user specification file opens. This, of course, is also doable for functional and technical specifications. Each specification type has its own template within the application. Templates are all customizable. We are now able to create test protocols. By clicking on the protocol table, you notice 2 records are created. If I select Test Protocol 1, which I named QO Protocol, I'm then able to link operational tests, and just as I did a moment ago with the URS publication, I can publish the whole protocol using the Publish feature. The PDF opens containing your protocol with the 2 test sheets linked to it. From this protocol table, you can now create electronic executions. Select the protocol you need to run testing on. Then click on the Execution button on the main toolbar. Give your execution a name and hit OK. The workflow window pops up. Here you can define who will be the manager, the approver, and the tester, since you may have different persons on your different tests. This is very useful. Also, if you want, this information can automatically be filled if you know all persons or groups will remain the same throughout all your tests. Hit OK, and you get a message telling you the execution has been generated. You see the protocol execution record is present under your OQ protocol. This electronic execution is reflected under the validation section in a table that now contains the 2 test sheets and their test instructions that are ready to be electronically executed. You can deploy the test sheets to see your test instructions using the little plus sign. The gray dot on the left side of the test sheets indicates that the execution hasn't started. To start the execution of a given test sheet, select it and click the Start Execution button on the main toolbar. Confirm and type in your password to initiate the workflow you previously set up. The test sheet status shows you it is in progress with the yellow dot. At this point, the tester will receive a notification to connect on SVV to start testing. The tester will only have to open the test sheet form and click Start. The pre-execution section is read-only, and the post-execution is editable by the tester. The person is able to type in the test results. The tester can decide if the test is conform or not with the radio buttons on the form, and very simply add test proofs by clicking on the dedicated button on the bottom. A Word file opens for the tester to paste screenshots. For the presentation, I'll just take a snapshot of the current screen. Close Word, and the test proof gets automatically attached to your execution. To move on to the second instruction, the tester clicks Next, and the process repeats until all instructions are covered. Once all instructions are done by the tester, the test sheet can be saved. It is possible during an execution to assign a defect to an instruction. For that, select the instruction, click on Create and Link, choose if it is either a pending or closed defect, set the defect severity, type the description and click Save. The defect is linked automatically to the instruction. The newly created defect and its ID plus the title are visible by selecting your test sheet and under the defect link at the bottom as you see here. When the test sheet is executed, test proofs are in the system and that the defects are created, you can finish the execution by clicking the Execution Completion button on the main toolbar. The tester needs to confirm and type the password, and the verifier is now able to control the test sheet execution. At this point, the verifier received an email notification and will be able to open the execution in read-only mode, check if all fields are correctly typed, the test proofs are conform, and consult the defects to later approve the execution with the dedicated button. The verifier declares the execution as conform. If declared as not conform, the execution is rejected, a comment is mandatory, and the tester would restart the testing process after being notified by email. The verifier electronically signs, and the green dot by the test sheet record switches to green, telling you the execution is completed. Finally, you can publish your execution by going to the documentation section, Protocol Family, choosing the protocol you want to publish and click on the Publish button. As usual, select PDF and that you want the test proofs to be included. Select the name and path to the output PDF file. The document is generated with all that was executed, the instructions, expected results, and the test proofs. Thanks for watching our GxpSVV catalog application presentation. If you need any information or a personalized demo, please contact us through our website.